They say that Piper the Sailor Man this morning with Minority. I call it the Viking Pirate pre premortal pipe. I call it. These little images remind me of when I was a kid, going in caves in France and seeing all this artwork of buffaloes. No, not France. The Lorraine Caverns in Virginia, I think it was. And I was an inquisitive little kid. I didn't care. I didn't care who you were. The color of your skin. If you knew something that I didn't know and I was curious about it, I would just go up to people and talk to people. That's how innocent I was. I looked at everybody the same. I was so inquisitive. There was in Long Beach City, Long Island. At the time, they had what was called model stores. You can go in. They had models, and they were very expensive. I couldn't afford all of them, so I would save up my money going to buy a model. And I said, I don't got money for the glue. So the man took advantage of me and said, well, you work half a day here with me. You show the models that you know, and I'll give you glue. So I wanted the glue so bad, so I worked a half a day for a stick of glue. Tell me he didn't take advantage of me. He took advantage of me. He saw, after a while, I don't know, maybe he got convicted, and he hired me to try to sell the model kits. And that's when I learned about train sets, expensive train sets. And there were some customers that had the money to buy this huge train set. There was one man, his whole basement was nothing but a train set. And he would sit there, and he had an engineer's cap, and he happened to be his pipe smoker. So I'm watching Dan with a bunch of kids in the neighborhood. We used to go over. Mr. Alfred Schertelmein's house is open to see his train sets, and he would make it really nice for Christmas. And he had little towns. I mean, it was like 14 square foot. And he had the carpenters come in and build the platform. And then him and his family. And by just before Christmas, 2-3 days before Christmas, you can go and see these amazing cities, little cities. And it was up the Hudson River. You had little towns, Poughkeepsie, Plattsburgh. And you had the trains, the different original train lines going up the Hudson Valley Line, Long Island, Penn Central Station. And it was so neat. And he sit there with Pipe and some other, and you see these men already in their 70s doing little kids supposed to do. And I thought, man, this is great. You mean I can grow old and still enjoy doing stuff like that? I was the only Puerto Rican kid in the whole shebang. You had group. You had Jews, Greeks. They know I was from the other side of the train track. But because I tried, basically because I was in the baseball team. I was the best player. They had two towns fight over me, Island Park and Oceanside. They wanted me to come play baseball. I was batting .600, Pee Wee League, and we started off you put the baseball on top of this stand and you gotta whack it. I was like, what? And then I learned my uncles was pitching hard balls. So when the Pioneer League came around, notice I jumped from the models to baseball. Well, they wanted me, so they kept me around, and They treated me really nice. Some of them happened to be lawyers, and I was invited to kids that had money, their homes, beautiful homes. They knew where I lived. They knew my mother's single parent working hard, and they saw that I tried speaking English, and I would always ask questions. Always ask questions. I was one of these kids. I always ask questions. What about this? What happened to this? And my mind, the guy looks at me, Mr. Meskin. He was a retired English teacher. And he realized you're very analytical. So Mr. Meskin met me at the Long Beach Library. Back then it was a lot of books. Before technology, and Miss Goldman, had the books in index cards, and it was sectioned off history and mathematics and science and natural science and stuff like that. So I was always used to the history. Then it was broken down alphabetically. A, E. I used to like E because E, Egypt, E, England. So I used to study everything English the most. The part I liked the most was the medieval, Middle East, the knights. The whole. I started liking Baroque music through studying the Middle Ages, the medieval, jousting and sword. Yeah, I'm a Latin kid, and I'm studying all this other stuff, the castles. I love to read up on the castles, and it didn't hit me that those were real castles. It was like, castles and the knights and the black knights. I don't know how many of you guys went through that. I did. I was so fascinated, not knowing that a lot of these knights were bloodthirsty and criminals and raped women. But back then it was nothing but a fantasy. In the early American, I would study the history of early American, Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone. That was the only one they wrote about. Nobody. Then I started listening to Roy Rogers and the Westerns. I always liked the Tales of Carson City, Borax, the Chinese Railroad, how the Chinese came to the West, and I saw the Kung Fu and the Chinese, and always interested in the different elements of the West and the banditos, rancheros, and it was fun because you read these books and you could live vicariously by reading these books. You saw yourself I always saw myself as a sheriff, keeping the law, and one of my favorite figures was Bat Masterson. I guess because he had the cane and he had the hat, and he had the Derringer hitting here. Bat Masterson was so slick English, always with a vest. Then you had I love that movie, film Jeremiah Johnson, the fur trapper. Well, he wasn't always a fur trapper. He became that, wanted to get away from society, and he had to learn from the mountain men. So he learned from that actor. He played Grandpa in the Waltons, and Jeremiah got out there, had to learn how to trap birds, how to deal with the Indians, how to live off the land. I love that stuff. Survival, how to live off the land, how to fish, how to hunt. Something I really enjoy. I'm gonna call this random because my mind is just like has so many My son sent me a picture. I was so proud of him. Of He took up archery, something I always wanted to do. I mean, to really learn the art. It's like bow and arrows. I used to do that with the Boy Scouts. But he really learned. He's like nationally rated. And then he went out there and he hunted. And I felt so proud of the father. Like, what? Something I always wanted to do, he took up. He goes, Dad, I know you always wanted to do this. I said, I still wanted to do. But I no longer want to use a bow. I want to use a crossbow. He said, why you want to use a crossbow? I said, because I've been watching all the English, and the English was supposed to be, and the French, some of the best crossbows. And I want to see how they work, how effective it was. And the crossbow came to existence. War had changed. The Vikings could no longer use the long swords against the French bowmen and the English crossbows. Those things were deadly back then. Can you imagine now? With all the technology, But getting back to the the model store. Then, once I got the glue, I began making models, and when I finished the model, turned it in. The store owner said, "Aren't you going to paint it?" I looked at him. I said, "Paint it?" "Yeah, over there. You get a paint kit. You trim it, you sand it down, and you paint your models. And you could display it here." I said, "I ain't got no money for no models. You gotta work for me half a work for me half a day. I'll give you the paint kit." I looked at him. I said, "Okay." I love being there anyway. So I work all day. He showed me how to do this, do that, stock, inventory. At the same time, I was getting an education. I learned how to stock, inventory when the shipment came in, what to do with it, how to do invoices, 30 net, 60 net, 90 nets, what needed to be paid on time. Before you know, it was like an assistant manager. That helped me later on when I did become assistant manager of a Carvel. That was my first real job, the Carvel. And the man took interest in me. I was very good in the art of running a Carvel. You really knew how to make the formulas for the amount of formulas for the vanilla, chocolate. You had to know your ice creams. So I had to study on ice creams. The making, the history of it. He gave me this book. And then I was so good in making the banana splits and having that vanilla just right. I love vanilla ice cream. It had to be right. And then I learned how to do the cones, triple cones. Things are not done like that, but it was not triple cones. How to put the little peanuts and sprinkles. And those little kids used to come in and go, "Hi, Miguel." I look at them, they couldn't afford it. They were poor. I said, "I know your mother's working, right? You came out of school." So you used to have these sandwiches. So I used to pay $1 and get 4 or 5 little sandwiches, vanilla, chocolate at the end, and give it to the kids. They were like, I loved them. Some had marshmallows, But getting back to the store, from the shop, I met this man who was a sailor. He was a retired sailor. At the end of the island, Montauk Point, they used to do shark fishing. And I got to thinking that movie Jaws was basically based on Fire Island and Montauk Point. You got old timers, descendant, Portuguese, whale fishermen, shark fishermen. So he hadn't gone out there, but he had a sailboat. And I always wanted, after reading at a young age, I think it's 8, 9, Kontiki. My mind used to wander about going out to sea and being a fisherman, Moby Dick. I know 40 Leagues Under the Sea. There were a lot of pictures watching Errol Flynn, pirate. So being out at sea, those big clipper ships, cannons fighting each other, the pirates swinging from one ship to the other. I love that stuff. I still do. So he talked to the owner, wanted for him to come out, to go out there. The owner by the time said, Miguel, would you like to go sailing? What? I said, but you'd have to ask my mother. So now I knew why he was so nice to me, because his son lived real far away, and he wasn't too close with his son. I'm not going to tell you his name because he meant a lot to me. But this old man asked my mother. I was off with him to Montauk Point. When we got there, we had a beautiful 40-footer. I think it was 40-footer, 38-footer. Beautiful, man. Wood, the inlay, gold, the brass, the mass. So it had been retouched over and over. Looked like it was something from the 1920s, 1930s, like a schooner. But we went out there. My friend didn't know anything about sailing, just the man. He would tell us what to do, and I learned how to do knots through him. That's the most important thing, to go out to sea. He said, you want to be a sailor? I go, yes, sir. Yeah, do this knot. You know how to do this knot? I knew like 4 or 5 knots because I was a second-class scout. And he taught me some more knots. So we were like about 2 miles out at sea when he catches a heart attack while at the helm. And the other man was like, grabbed him, sat him down, and there were no cell phones, there were no radios. He didn't have a Hammond B radio operator. So the man said, take the helm. Turn the sail around. Talking about being paralyzed. I was paralyzed for a second. Me? Come on, Migo, you're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to do this. I'm 10 years old. On the helm. The captain of the ship has a heart attack. What a scene. It's choppy. All I remember was what I saw on TV. How you had to take the mast and shift it. And that's what I did. I checked the wind, the current of the wind. Look at top side. So I said, I gotta come back in the angle. I had to come in like this, like this, like this. If I tried to go straight on, it would have taken us out more to sea. So it was natural instincts. I had to turn it around, change the mast. It was starting to rain. And I was terrified. Right? At that time, the man was having a heart attack, but he was still alive. So he said, where are we? We had like a mile heart attack or stroke or something. And he was just lying there. We turned it around. He says that at the mile mark, half a mile mark, send up a flare. I had to send up a flare. Shot that thing first time. I'm gonna burn myself. And you can see some boats coming. And I'm at the helm, man. The hardest thing I ever done in my life. I was a skinny little running kid. Bringing a ship like that in. When the pilot master came out, he was like, "Oh, this is a kid." And I was holding on, man. Holding on to that thing, right? Catatonic, looking straight ahead. I gotta get there. I gotta ring this ship in. The pilot boat comes in. I saw the lighthouse. I know there was shallow water for buoys. I knew nothing about buoys. I know if I go on the inside, I'm going to hit shallow water. So I sit on the outside, and I said to myself, unknowingly, I got to drop the anchor halfway. I dropped the anchor halfway. All of a sudden, the pilot master comes on board. Boy, let go of the helms. Couldn't let go. It was already about 40 minutes, and I was there like this, stuck. I didn't want to let go of it. Hey, boy, let go. I let go. And he says, "Good job. You're a regular sailor, you know." And I go, "Yeah, I'm a sailor. You know, I am really a sailor now. You know, that was my initiation on board a real sail. It was a real ship, man. What would have happened if that pilot wouldn't have been out there? I would have probably crashed it going into the pier. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know anything else. I was a young kid, 10 years old. And that was my story of how I fell in love with the sea. Fell in love with a model store. Met people. That led to me. I was building ships. I was building model ships. And then you learn, you read the instruction, helm, mast, whatever. This gotta be like this, like that. I used to read a lot of magazines. Amazing. Back then you had so many magazines on sailing, fishing. You don't even have that anymore, man. You know, scuba, skin diving. I took that up as a sport. Skin diving, scuba diving, snorkeling. Love it. Love it. Right now I'm not in great shape where I was, man. I would like to join one of these tours that go to Cancun or the Cayman Islands and do a little snorkeling action. But that's my story of how I first took the helm of a sail ship because a man caught a heart attack. He survived. And he thanked me. He thanked me awfully a lot. He says, "I don't know how you did it, kid, but see, when a kid has interest in something, you learn quick. Even an adult, even if you're an adult and you really have interest in, even in pipes, you're gonna quick learn. You're gonna pick it up, you know, because you have a natural disposition for that." So that's it, folks. Sailor the Piper Man, Piper the Sailor Man. Until next time.